The day we've all been waiting for. The 2025 NFL Draft is less than 24 hours away, and what's new? There's been some new buzz surrounding the New York Jets in the past 24 or so hours. Where the Jets will go with the number 7 overall pick. Armand Membu, Tyler Warren have been viewed as the consensus favorites for a long time, but now many analysts reporting the Jets could go on the defensive side of the ball with the pick. Would it be worthwhile for New York? We'll talk about that and much more, all coming up here on the final draft preview. And who better to bring on to talk all things Jets draft than the man, the myth, the legend, Matt O'Leary. All that and much more coming up here on a Wednesday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk right here, right now. Let's go.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
What is going on, everyone? Hello and welcome back here into another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Coming to you here less than 24 hours away from the start of the 2025 NFL Draft on April 23rd here on this Wednesday. So I appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, get all your questions in the chat. We'll get to those. Pin comment if you want to call in. Paid way to help us grow. Get into our membership raffle. Every membership gifted or $2.99 super chat. Get you a raffle entry. And you have a chance to win a Don Maynard signed photo, Joe Klicko signed helmet, Joe Namath Super Bowl III replica ring, a CJ Mosley signed jersey, a free item from our merch store, and a channel emoji. Make sure you're getting on that if you haven't already. The more entries you have, the higher chance you have of winning. But let's get right into it. Joining me right now here, he joins us every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The one, the only, Matt O'Leary at Matt O'Leary, NY, one of the best Jets content creators in the content creating realm. Kind enough to spare some time for us as always, as he does here every single Wednesday. Matt, can't thank you enough as always. And how you doing here on this Wednesday evening, less than 24 hours away from the big day?
I'm doing good, man. Excited to hop on, talk some NFL draft. 24 hours from now, the bell will be ringing, and it's going to be time to get after it.
1,000%. Where I kind of want to start is the latest news surrounding the Jets in the past 24 or so hours, and that's we're hearing they could potentially lean on the defensive side of the ball. And this is interesting because some players, some fans, really want to build this defensive unit and get it back into a top 3 unit like we saw in 2023. And we saw flashes of that during the 2022 season, but 2024 told a different story for Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbricht's group. The names we've heard, Jahdae Barron is someone who's been a common name since Rich Cimini first mentioned him. We heard Adam Schefter mention him. We heard Albert Breer, Matt Miller, a ton of well-known analysts say Jahdae Barron to the Jets could be a great scheme fit and a real possibility at 7. Todd McShay referenced someone who's super interesting prospect, and that's Jalen Walker from Georgia. And he said he could be a surprise pick for the Jets, and that's the direction he has the Jets leaning at number 7 overall. I want to get your thoughts on, let's say you're on with Matt Ryan and Green Bean. Jets are on the clock. You hear the bell ring, and Jalen Walker from Georgia is the pick.
A little underwhelmed, I guess. Like he's an exciting player, right? Like I don't want to take anything away from Jalen Walker, the prospect, but there's a little bit of projecting involved or developing too as a pass rusher for him, I think. And he's a bit of a hybrid, right? Like you don't know if he's going to be more of a linebacker or more of an edge rusher. And there certainly is upside, but of the guys who are going to be there in my mind at pick number 7, I would think that there's other more immediate impact guys.
1,000%. The thing that is interesting for me with Jalen Walker, he has the versatility to play linebacker. He has the versatility to come off the edge of a pass rusher. Kind of reminds me of that guy where he's a jack of all trades, but not really a master at any one. First off, I don't want to go defensive player at all, but Walker, at least, like Jahdae Barron, just wouldn't make sense to me because I think if you draft Jahdae Barron, it indicates you are just done on Sauce Gardner. You might not want to pay him. And Brandon Stevens, all right, maybe he's not worth all the hype that you, referring to Aaron Glenn, have been hyping him up for. So drafting Jahdae Barron indicates to me they're not comfortable with Sauce. They're not comfortable with Stevens, but you have an all-pro in Sauce, who I think you are going to have to pay in I think next offseason is when they're ultimately going to pay him. Muji said he expects to exercise the 5th-year option on all 3 first-round picks from that class in Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, and Sauce Gardner. So I don't get trying to add cornerback depth when not only do I not want a defensive player, but if you want to go defense, like Walker would make sense for me from like a logic standpoint, because they have Quincy Williams, who's 28 years old, who's entering the last year of his contract. And if you want to use him as a pass rusher, okay, cool. You have Will McDonald, who I think is coming off an overrated season. Jermaine Johnson's coming off an Achilles injury. Behind that, you have undrafted free agents, question marks, guys who are most likely going to be competing for roster spots. I would understand the logic behind it, but I want an offensive weapon. Build a supporting cast to help have success around Justin Fields and give Justin Fields a fair opportunity to prove, hey, maybe I'm more than just a bridge option in New York. So I think offense is the right route. I would understand Walker if they lent the defensive route. I just wouldn't understand Barron. And Matt, someone I know you were really, really interested in, like the early stages when you started doing your mock drafts of this pre-draft process, Mason Graham from Michigan. And I like Mason Graham overall as a player. And if Quinnen Williams wasn't on this roster, he would probably be my pick at number 7 overall. The thing is, you have Quinnen Williams under contract, like I mentioned, and he's another 3 technique defensive lineman who you'd play inside with Quinnen. I think this team needs to find a big, bulky 1 tech to plug in next to Quinnen. Realizing that, Quinnen Williams most likely going to be on the roster this season, the fact the Jets could go a defensive player, what is your stance on Mason Graham and how he could potentially fit with the Jets less than 24 hours away from the draft?
So I think Mason Graham might be the only defensive player that I want to take at 7. And I understand where you're coming from completely on pointing out the maybe similarities in his game to a Quinnen Williams, but I think he's a talented enough player where, and if Glenn's as good of a coach as what I think he can be, I think there's a way you figure it out with, 2 more pass rushing guys on the interior. Plus, I know he doesn't have that elite size to be a good run stopper, but he did it at Michigan with really good against really good competition. Now, granted, going from college to the NFL is a huge difference, and it might be a bit of a learning curve for him there, especially in the run game. But I think he's one of the 5 best players in this draft. So if he was there for the Jets at 7, I think it's good value. To just kind of piggyback off what you were saying with Jahdae Barron or just safety in general, that's not one that makes any sense to me at all for the New York Jets, because as you pointed out, you have Sauce Gardner. I'm assuming they're going to pay Sauce. You paid Michael Carter last year. You paid Brandon Stevens big money this offseason, or decent money for a starter, right? You paid him starter money over 3 years. Why are you taking a corner then in the first round? That one I think I'm going to chalk up to being a smokescreen. I don't think that one makes much sense at all for the Jets.
What I hope this is, Matt, especially hearing it from all these different reporters, I hope this is Muji, honestly, telling reporters this and getting this out into the media. I think what they might be eyeing here is a team like the San Francisco 49ers, who pick at number 11, who could need a CB1. A team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who pick at 19 and are doing anything to increase their chances of hoisting a Lombardi trophy. Like, if Barron's there at 7 and the Jets are threatening to take them, and you could trade back to 19 with Tampa Bay and get their 2nd and 3rd round pick, 53rd and 85th, that's like a dream scenario for me. Even if you get a 2nd and a 4th and a pick swap, I would absolutely love that. Trade back right now is my number 1 route. And I understand at least the logic behind Jalen Walker, but that's a move I would significantly be upset with. So I want to know all your thoughts in the chats. If you have any questions for Matt and I, throw those in the chat. We'll get to those. Let's hear your thoughts on the latest smoke, the latest buzz, whatever you want to call it, surrounding the Jets less than 1 day away from the NFL draft. Our guy J3 Siblings says, Connor Long, why do all of these content creators want a mid-tight end at 7 when Bowers went at 13 and he leaps and bounds better than Warren? Honestly, Loveland might be better. Warren Membu debate, Matt, is really, really interesting because a lot of people want to get that 5th offensive lineman and solidify the trenches. Somewhat pass catcher. I've still heard some of the Ted McMillan lovers, and I appreciate you as a fellow Ted McMillan fanboy. Matt, I want you respond to Jay's comment here. Why do you want Tyler Warren at number 7?
I think we have to use some critical thinking here and realize that last year's situation is different than this year's situation. I slightly agree with the comment in that Brock Bowers is a better overall prospect, but not all draft classes are built equal. With last year's class on the offensive line, there were 9 players who were drafted who are offensive linemen in round 1. That's not going to be the case this year because the offensive line class is not nearly as good. They found their left tackle last year in the NFL draft by taking Olu Fashanu. They still need a right tackle for sure. And if they take Armand Membu, you will see a very happy Matt O'Leary on Thursday night because I think building the offensive line is important. But you can't keep getting hung up that they didn't take Brock Bowers a year ago. You throw that out the window. Brock Bowers is an awesome tight end prospect. No one who watched him is going to tell you otherwise. But the circumstances were very different last year versus the circumstance now. You have 4/5 of your offensive line figured out. If they feel they could find someone on day 2 to start for them, great. Then take Tyler Warren because you don't have a tight end on this roster who is capable of being a starter. If they don't view the day 2 guys as being capable of starters, then okay, you take Armand Membu and you take a swing on a tight end on day 2, whether it be a Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, whoever your favorite tight end day 2 prospect is. But I hate the argument that, oh, you passed on Brock Bowers a year ago, you can't possibly take a tight end. So they're just never supposed to draft a tight end in the first round ever again now because they passed on Brock Bowers. Like, the logic just doesn't add up.
I like Warren, and I think Warren could be a solid player for this team. And I really, really like him at number 7. I just think getting someone who can develop into a sound blocker for you, providing a big catch radius, can contribute as somewhat of as a safety net for Fields. You mentioned you'd be excited, Matt, if they drafted Membu. Honestly, Warren's my number 1 guy, but it's kind of weird for me. Like, even if they take Warren, who's my number 1 guy, I'm not going to be like through the moon because I just don't view any prospect the Jets can realistically get at number 7 overall as a true game changer, someone who's going to come in and really wreck the game for this team. Could Warren be a quality starter year 1, 1000%? Is he going to come in and be a significant difference maker for this team if selected at number 7? I don't think so. Like last year when they drafted Olu, I was through the moon because, boom, you get your blindside protector. At that time, Aaron Rodgers, who was going to back up Tyron Smith. And if any injuries came to him, which had been, and that trend continued, he was going to come in, and that's what he did, and he thrived for the Jets. So I really, really like that pick. The McDonald one I didn't get. Loved Garrett, loved Sauce. There's no one in this year's draft where it's like, if they take it and you're not named Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, I'll be through the moon. So that's where I am on the prospects overall. But I really want a pass catcher, whether that's Warren, whether that's Tet McMillan. Those are the 2 guys I'm really eyeing. And then Loveland kind of as that third outlier. I think the shoulder injury concerns me a little bit in his presence, as you're going to use a first-round pick on pretty much just a big wide receiver who's going to line up in the slot at 6'5", 250 pounds. So there's some concerns with every prospect, and certainly are with Warren and Loveland. Every player in this. No, there's no player except Hunter and Carter who I view as a legit blue chip, and I'll throw Genty in there as legit blue chip players for their position groups. That's where I am on these prospects.
Yeah, I think that's fair. A fair way to look at it. Honestly, it's. And that's why a lot of people want to trade back, but trading back is easier said than done too.
100%. Allen, if it is Graham, Walker, and Warren at 7, 1, take Graham. 2, play Atlanta versus Carolina, who both covet Walker and make the best deal. 3, take Warren if they can only attract a pick in a trade down.
Okay. Allen really likes Mason Graham. I like Mason Graham too. I think he's a good football player. I wouldn't hate that selection. I'd be a little bit nervous about what you're going to do at tight end and offensive tackle after that. But if there's a plan, right, and they come away with, I don't know, well, just for argument's sake, Mason Taylor and Ozzie Trapilo at those positions of need on day 2, then I'm okay with it. I do think it's interesting that you have the Atlanta and Carolina card shortly thereafter from where the Jets are picking. One might want to jump in front of them. You also have New Orleans, who's in the same division. They're picking 9th too. So a bunch of NFC South teams right in a row. So if you are to trade back, maybe those would be the teams.
Rover, we still don't know what we have in stickers. Yes, we don't know what we have in stickers. I think you can go into the season, though, expecting that you're going to get starting quality play out of someone who was a day 3 pick last year coming from the CFL. I think this is the scenario, like many on the Jets roster, where you go in expecting nothing and everything you get is a bonus. I don't think you can rely on Quantez Stickers to step in as a starter this season.
No, and that's why that's not going to be his role this year. If there's an injury, right? Like if there's an injury to one of the outside corners, he might get a shot, but I don't think, them going into the year penciling him in as a starter was wise. And, they brought in a veteran in Stevens, and I know there's some question marks around him, but they felt it was a position of need to fill that cornerback 2 spot, and I feel they already did it.
What were we here? Yeah, Joe comes in, says trade back and target Harmon or Simmons. I don't like. I like getting the extra draft capital, but you're saying targeting another 3 technique defensive tackle and just an an injury riddled right tackle. I don't like that.
I honestly like Josh Connerly at tackle, I think better than
Mhm.
Simmons. So if you're moving back with, I don't know, let's use Pittsburgh as the example at 21, then that's maybe who I'm targeting at that point, a Connerly, or if you want to go receiver, I like Emeka Ibuka out of Ohio State. That would be a guy that I would target there. Maybe Loveland, but I don't think it's a guarantee. He's still on the board at that point. But if you're moving back that far, you're probably getting a first round pick in next year's draft. So that could be interesting.
David D. Connor and Matt, which players do you think the Jets would trade up from pick 42 in the late first round or early second round if the trade compensation reflects a typical trade value chart?
I don't know if I see them trading up. I think there's a better chance that they trade down, and the reason behind it is this is Darren Muji's first draft, so I think he's going to want additional swings. Like they probably would be interested in moving down from 7. I just don't know how likely it is. I think 42, we might see them trade down in the second round and maybe pick up another mid-round pick in that process.
Interesting. The players I would say here, Connerly, maybe if he's falling, Ursery if he's falling a little, because I think a lot of people think, oh, Ursery's just going to be sitting there on a silver platter at 42. I think there's a chance he can go into the first round tomorrow night. I don't think that's something a lot of people have been talking about, and I think it's a real possibility if offensive line is favored early in the draft. Like if Vegas decides to take Membu, the Jets decide to take Banks, and then boom, 2 premier tackles off the board. Campbell goes at 4 to the Patriots. That's 3 tackles gone in the top 7. So don't count out Ursery as an end of the first round guy. So I'd say Ursery, Connerly, and then I wrote a column for Jets X Factor. 3 guys I think they could trade up for based on the top 30 visits. Derek Harmon, Michael Williams, and blanking on the Darius Alexander from Toledo. I think those are the 3 guys based on the top 30 visits. Some guys they can look to trade for. A few minutes left here with Matt, so we'll get to 2 more points here before we wrap up. DTN says, in my opinion, Jets should target a right tackle or a wide receiver 2 and tight end in the first round instead of a cornerback. I don't understand why the Jets want to aim for a cornerback in the first round. What I'll flip it to here, Matt, for you is, do you want the Jets to draft a cornerback at all? Like, could you see them making a day 3 swing as a bit of a depth piece?
I mean, sure, on day 3, like anything is possible. And if there's just someone that they think the value is too good to pass up on, maybe, but there's a lot of needs on this team. Like corner isn't one of those spots. If it were up to me, I think I'd be using my first 3 picks on, in whatever order, right tackle, tight end, and wide receiver. And then I'd be trying to fill out depth on day 3 on the defense with interior defensive line and, edge, safety. I don't know if you're going to have enough picks to fill out all the depth needs that you might have, but not a horrible idea to probably land a corner.
Well, and with this one here from Wild Wave, a hot take less than 1 day away from the draft. Genty at 1, trade back is the number 2 option. Jalen Walker at number 3, Matt. Very surprising.
It is surprising. I'm starting to think that Esh and Ginty might not be there for the Jets at 7. I know there was this debate, right, for a little bit. That he might be on the board for the Jets, and would they trade Brees? I don't think we're going to get to that, because I think, as you just had the comment up, he's favored to go to Jacksonville. I think the Raiders would be in on it. There were rumblings that teams might be looking to trade up for him, so I don't know if it's a possibility for the Jets.
Yeah, this is what I'll say. Walker, I don't like at 3. Trade back would be my number 1. Genty, I'd probably put it like 4 or 5. And Matt, I'm a big Genty fan and a big trade Brees Hall for a 3rd round fan. Like I was talking to Nick Farry on Monday. We had him on the show, and he thinks like the but like everything goes right for the Jets, the best you can get in the strong running back class for Brees is an end of the 4th round pick. And I'm just not doing that. Like if you can get a 3rd round pick for Brees, I'll be open to a 1000%. 4th round pick, you just can't talk me into that. There's no point in that. And you guys know I've been open to trading Brees at the right package. He said he thinks Hall's true value, the cap of the 4th round pick, and like you're really looking for a 5th or a 6th round pick if you were to trade him. At that point, there's trading Brees Hall for a day 3 pick. Someone who was nearly a 1,000-yard rusher in 2023, had over 1,500 all-purpose yards. Absolutely not. I think that would be a colossal mistake by Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. But Matt, who really knows what this team will do less than 24 hours away? And I really appreciate you hopping on with us to give us your breakdown less than 24 hours away from the draft. And you'll obviously be streaming it with Matt Ryan and Green Bean. I'll go live right after the Jets make their pick from a Asmaniac-filled Clinton Hall in New York City, and I will give my reaction. But Matt, appreciate you as always. Like I said, you got any final thoughts here before we wrap up the show?
We finally made it. I'm excited to react to whoever it is the Jets pick and ready to roll. Let's do it.
1000%. Appreciate you tuning in. Smash the like, hit subscribe. He's Matt O'Leary, and I am your host, Connor Long, and we're signing off here on NY Flight Jets Talk one last time before the 2025 NFL Draft. I'll see you guys tomorrow night where we will give our instant reaction on what the Jets do at number 7 overall. Who knows? Obviously some front runners. There's some smoke involved, but who will be the pick? That's what we'll find out tomorrow coming from Green Bay, Wisconsin. So appreciate all your support. As always, he's Matt, I'm Connor, and we're signing off here on NY Flight Jets Talk. And as always, JTS, Jets, Jets, Jets.